Hello everyone. I'm just negotiating with the cat for use of chair. Say hello, Socks. Nope, he's not going to say hello. I haven't adjusted the camera properly. It's all a bit ad hoc this morning. It's Tuesday morning and I've made some headway on the day in that I've actually managed to sit down in my chair and do some emails and edit some stuff. Anyway, today's video, because I realised it's almost at the end of August, so I wanted to do a little video about the books of August and what I've loved reading this August. It's been quite a good month, actually. Maybe the best month of the summer. I'm not sure. Are you quite comfy? I should just lower the camera and show Socks all the time, shouldn't I? Would that be better, Socks? Hey? Okay. Whoops. And then in a little while, I'll do my favourite books of the whole summer. I think that's what I'll do. I enjoy making lists of things. Jeremy hates making lists. He hates prioritising enjoyment. I think it's good. I like having best of lists. When I was doing the research for my Doctor Who in Wonderland, I found out that in the family of Charles Dodgson, a family of eccentrics, really, they had this metric of buns worth of fun. I don't know if I've explained this before, but if you can imagine the fun you'd have eating a particularly nice bun, that would be 1 unit of pleasure, and everything else is measured in those units. In my Doctor Who book, they complicate it. I think the Doctor complicates it by saying, what if it was a sticky bun or a bun with fruit in? Would that increase the fun? And of course it would. So of course we have to use sticky buns worth as a unit of measurement. So maybe rather than marks out of 5, we should talk about, what is that falling off you? Look, fur and scabs dropping off the cat. This is cats who get into fights. What the? Socks, you can't go around with scabby ears. This is why he was sulking the other day. He'd been in a scrap. So rather than marks out of 5 or stars out of 5, maybe we'll have sticky buns worths out of 5. I like the way it sounds slightly rude as well. Right, so August began with Puffball. I think I've talked about all of these, so I don't have to go into great depth in this video. Faye Weldon's 1980 folk horror novel. That's how it comes to seem from this distance, and also because it's been filmed by Nick Rogue, apparently in exactly that style of folk, British folk horror. It's set in the countryside. An urban couple move out to a cottage and get completely menaced by a farmer and his wife. The wife is a witch, and she curses the young pregnant wife. It's a really dense and sultry, horrifying book, I think, and wonderful to read in this this vintage edition from the time. Yeah, really, really enjoyable. Yeah, she's so twisted. There was a note there I made about a scene where Liffey, the young woman at the heart of it, realises that the witch Mab hates her over this Sunday lunch, and she has this whole epiphany about, how could anybody hate me? I'm the wonderful heroine of this story. And Mab takes her revenge. Then I moved on to some urban queer fantasy, Bored Gay Werewolf by Tony Santarella, which I mostly liked. It's satirising a certain kind of toxic masculinity and people who go all out to improve themselves at the cost of everything else, and the kind of cult-like behaviour that men fall into when they do that. It's not as funny as it thinks it is, I think. I think that's maybe unfair. I wanted it to be more absurd, I suppose. It's so fixed on becoming a series with this team of likable, flawed heroes, all of whom are kind of differently made up on the rainbow of LGBTQ. Oh, I don't know. It's maybe a bit on the money at times, but I liked it. It's very much a first, an opening gambit in a series, and I think I'll stick with it. I love the idea that the thing ends with a advert for Shy Trans Banshee, the second in the series, which won't be out for a full year, which is a bit of a mistake. I think I would have shoved it further up and brought it out sooner. My friend Rylan, who'd read the first one, was delighted to hear about Shy Trans Banshee. Then I moved on to a vintage Star Trek novel, The Starless World by Gordon Eklund, which I read back in 1984, when it was relatively new, comparatively anyway. It was out in 78, one of the first original Star Trek novels. It's very flimsy looking back, and probably I read it at just the right time, when I was 14, 15. There's lots of things here that they made more of later. We've seen done better and differently, I guess. It's about a world turned inside out, a Dyson sphere. We don't spend long enough inside this world to really explore and to feel as if we'd been there. And that's what we need in a story like this. But I guess at the time, they were just dabbling their toes in the possibilities of original Star Trek fiction. So I liked it well enough, but it obviously didn't hit me in the same way as it did when I was about 14. I do want to read the other one that Gordon Eklund wrote, Devil World, I think it's called, which I think might be the one I enjoyed more. It's just nice to have a copy of it again and to revisit. In the summer, I like to revisit types of books that I've enjoyed in the summer. And so, reading a book by Jonathan Carroll, reading a Star Trek book, reading a Batman story, reading 4 Puffins that I missed at the time, reading a literary biography. These are all categories of things I like to cover in my summer holiday reading. Completely eccentric, and nobody else would dream of reading from the same categories, but they're what I have settled on after all these years. Christmas has a similar roster of genres and series. Right, then I spent some time with Banana Yoshimoto, Dead End Memories, which is a collection of stories just out this summer from Faber. The first I've seen of hers around for a long time. I read 3 or 4 books of hers in the 90s, and I'd forgotten how much I enjoyed them. I borrowed them from the library in the 90s and gave them back, so they weren't here on my shelves. Oh, he's digging his claws in my knee. They weren't on my shelves to remind me how much I liked them, and I couldn't return to them. So she doesn't appear on my bookcase of favourites, of chronological favourites in the bedroom. And that needs rectifying. I need to go and find copies of NP and Kitchen and Lizard, I think. This was wonderful. I think I said this in an earlier video. I really like this. It has a great maturity and quietness to it, kind of very quiet, subtle epiphanies. That's what she gives you in this. Just the right thing to read on kind of long, warm days. Look at that, you've got a big chunk out of your ear, no wonder. I mean, not out of the ear, out of his fur. And a little scab there. You monster, stop fighting. And then, I banged on about this a lot. I spent probably a week reading Bernie Taupin's book, Scattershot, the lyricist for Elton John and his wayward career all over the world. Some of it fueled by drugs and drink and showbiz malarkey and showbiz chums. The chapters in 70s Los Angeles and Paris and New York stand out as the best. And even though he falls into all the rock cliches, including, starting a vanity band, getting into doing art, and going Christian and becoming a cowboy, buying land, even though all that stuff is there, it still is a captivating read. And even though it's not particularly well copy edited, and I don't think it is, it's impressionistic and slightly wild, and I really enjoyed it for that. It's somewhere between Sylvie Simmons's book about Gainsbourg, and although he'd hate that because he didn't approve of Gainsbourg, we find out in this. He doesn't like Serge much, and he says something about him being like an old tramp who's rolled around in an ashtray or something like that, covered in pubic hair. He's really dismissive. His little pen portraits of some of the people that he's met, the jet set, are really good. That's what I appreciate about this. And that era of the jet set was all about the times when royalty, pop stars, rock stars, writers, painters, actors met up all over the world. There was a kind of endless interzone of VIP lounges around the world, and they all kind of knocked around together, while at the same time producing the most wonderful work in whatever their particular spheres were. That's the knack, isn't it? Having a dissolute, disreputable, outrageous life, but still somehow producing classic work. And that's what this is testimony to. And it's one of those I was there books. And he was. And you can tell. So that was fantastic. And then I talked about this next one yesterday, Writing on Empty. Natalie Goldberg did me a lot of good in terms of giving me a bit of a shake about writing and reminding me you're not just at the whims of publishers and the commercial world. There's stuff you have to look after. When you're a writer, you have to look after your own voice first. Otherwise, there would be no work. So it was a good reminder, and I thank her again and salute her work. And now I'm about halfway through this Welcome to the Hunam Dong bookshop, which I love the first third or so. When I was reading last night, I was thinking, oh, I'm not sure now. I think it's gone off a bit in this bit. So hopefully she's going to pull it back before the ending. It's a bit self-helpy. And I suddenly had this epiphany last night about why are so many contemporary novels, best-selling novels, really kind of self-help manuals in disguise. How people make the best of something and become all affirmative, and they start a business and everybody joins in and they win through, like a kind of Hallmark movie. And I suddenly became very cynical about that last night, and it needs some more thinking about. But at the same time, there's a lot about mixed feelings and about what the world needs is more readers. And that's all good stuff. So I'm still enjoying it, but the jury's out, of course, until I've finished it. So that, in essence, is my August, which has been, a very quick month and a very intense month with lots of rain and lots of sun and a fair amount of time for reading. And it's a month when I was meant to work less, but actually I've ended up writing quite a lot and ended up thinking about work an awful lot. And I've had some awful disappointments and some good moments too. So just like any other month, in fact. But that's not a bad 3, 5, I can't count, 7, is that right? 7 books for August, which I think's pretty good. Especially when some of them are so dense and intense. And some of them really were. Faye Weldon and Bernie Topham, very intense. Okay, I'm going to go. Today, I'm not sure what's going to happen. Some writing, hopefully, I hope so. And this evening, I'm going with my friend Siobhan into town, and we're going to go to something she suggested. There's a life drawing class happening somewhere in the Northern Quarter that's a regular thing, and I've not been before. So we're going to go to that. I'm going to pack up some art materials and go and do some drawing. I feel the need to loosen up with drawing. That's what I need to do. So a couple of hours spent in a different place entirely amongst new people doing some drawing is a good thing to be doing today. Okay, I will say goodbye, and I'll see you again soon in the next episode. Goodbye.